This is Meteo Mundo.
Hi everyone, Rusty back here with the latest Meteo Mundo forecast. I hope you are having a great Saturday. Coming up, we'll have the latest on this disturbance and something that's going to be with us here for a while to come. We'll talk about the rain across the Caribbean and some changes on the way for a lot of us as we get into early and mid next week. And it's not just because of this disturbance, but obviously that will continue to be a very big story. So we'll talk about that coming up, but let's delve into what's been happening here throughout this Saturday so far. We continue to see tropical moisture streaming in, and it's very kind of concentrated right now, especially down on the southern side of the Windward Islands, where underneath some of this thicker cloud coverage, we're going to get additional heavier rain to develop, at least in spurts. It may not be extremely widespread, but as we roll through our Saturday, we'd certainly anticipate places like Barbados and Grenada and Trinidad and Tobago to all have a decent chance for some fairly heavy downpours. And the reason why is that was the enhanced satellite imagery, but you look at the rich tropical moisture at the lower levels of the atmosphere, and we'll look at the potential rainfall totals coming up. But if nothing else, it's going to be a pretty overcast rest of the Saturday here. You'll get some breaks of sunshine from time to time, but it's this area: Martinique, St. Lucia, Barbados, Grenada, Trinidad and Tobago. They have the best chance for some rain in most of the Leeward Islands. Now we'll see a few more showers over towards the ABC Islands as well, as we actually have some moisture just kind of moving in from west to east. It's kind of just flowing through Aruba, Curacao, and Bonaire right now with some thicker cloud coverage from time to time. I'll go back to the enhanced satellite imagery so you can see that. But again, is it extremely thick cloud coverage? No, not necessarily. And I would expect there to be some fast-moving showers in places like Aruba for the remainder of the day. Now, you get up past Martinique to the north, and it's a drier afternoon for the rest of the Leeward Islands towards Guadeloupe, Barbuda, Antigua, Anguilla, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Martin. Not expecting a lot of rain. A few showers will develop in the afternoon hours, and of course, drop a line and let me know if you get any heavier rain in this area here. Always appreciate that. Always appreciate you guys hitting the like button in this video as well. And for our friends in San Juan and the rest of Puerto Rico on over towards Arecibo, and then the British and U.S. Virgin Islands. Again, it's going to be a relatively clean Saturday. One of the areas I do expect a little bit more in the way of some development later this afternoon is going to be in Santo Domingo, the Dominican Republic, maybe portions of Haiti on the western side of the island, but you can see this moisture gathering, excuse me, and some of that is going to slip north into portions of the Turks and Caicos as well. So a better chance for some heavier rain on our Saturday as we go there. Looking over the rest of the Caribbean here, we are having some really thick clouds developing over portions of Central America right now. Let me take off this 5-day forecast area so it looks a little bit cleaner on this. But again, from Panama City towards San Jose, now most of this is offshore, but some of it is beginning to move into places like Managua, Nicaragua, Tegucigalpa there in Honduras, San Pedro Sula. We're getting a blow up of at least some clouds over places like Roatan right now. And underneath some of this, we're going to get some additional rain. Now, these are some areas that don't need a lot more rain, like San Ignacio and Belize City, but the opportunity for some showers moving inland and north in your area is possible. And then that'll be for the rest of the Yucatan as well. I expect some scattered showers in places like Cancun and Cozumel as we go through the remainder of the day. For our friends in the Bahamas, it's an absolutely lovely weekend ahead. We'll talk about the winds coming up. That's going to be the big story. But for Freeport, Marsh Harbor, Nassau, Authorstown, Eleuthera and Abaco and Andros and the Bimini area, we're looking beautiful. This is a looped satellite image. I promise you, we're just not really seeing much there. Okay, so the rain chance over the weekend continuing here. Let's take a look at the model. I'll throw it into motion. And again, let's highlight some of the areas that I expect the best chance for there to be some rain. We'll look back down again into the Windward Islands, from St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Barbados, Grenada, Trinidad and Tobago, scattered showers here. Now, this is going to take you through Monday morning, so this is going to be the remainder of our weekend. And again, it's spotty rain, but there will be pockets of heavier showers as well. So I always like to hear from you guys because, again, it's going to be really spotty in nature, but let me know how you guys are doing with that rainfall here lately. ABC Islands, same scenario. You see a little bit heavier rain towards Bonaire, and that looks to be creeping up for tomorrow and then into early on our Monday. So a little bit better chance for rain for Bonaire and Curacao. A little bit later in the weekend, slightly drier for today, but still some scattered showers possible there. As I mentioned, when you get north of, let's say, Montserrat especially, but even Dominica and Martinique won't see much rain, but you get north of Montserrat, it's really spotty for the weekend. spotty rain, again, with some downpours for Puerto Rico and places like St. Thomas and St. Croix, but I'm not too concerned. And then again, you get over portions of the Dominican Republic, and there'll be a little bit of flare-up of showers and storms there as we go through mainly the afternoon hours, the heat of the day, still able to fire off some of these storms. And some of that moisture does lift into portions of the Turks and Caicos as well. Now, the most concentrated rain is actually going to be offshore of Central America. And yes, this is the beginnings of the development of this disturbance. We're going to get into that a lot more coming up, but you can see that moisture. Now, it's developing across Central America, but it's lifting north. So we are going to get some rain throughout Central America here, but generally that heaviest rain is going to be offshore. Now, that's not as big of a news for places like Costa Rica and Panama, but obviously the areas that were greatly impacted by the disturbance last week don't need any more rain. And generally speaking, you have showers in the forecast, but nothing too heavy. If there is one area that I'm a little bit more concerned about, it is the eastern shoreline of both Nicaragua and Honduras. So we'll be watching for some heavier rain there. But again, the heaviest rain that we had from that disturbance was La Chiva on over towards San Pedro Sula, and then through portions of Guatemala, both coastal and inland, and coastal in portions of inland Belize as well. So those are the areas that would be of the greatest concern to get a lot more rain. But right now, I think you guys are going to stay just to the north and west of that. How about the rainfall total over the weekends? Well, again, we'll take a look at it, and you'll really start to see these bullseyes developing just offshore as that moisture from the disturbance really begins to gather some steam. Elsewhere, again, we're looking at a few inches of rain as a maximum here. So let me switch over to this, and we'll basically start from north to south. How does that sound for the Cancun area? Again, if you're visiting there or traveling there this weekend, early next week, sure, there'll be a spotty shower, but many dry hours for Cancun and Cozumel. So go out and enjoy. I hope you enjoy things there. A little bit higher rain chances for places like Belize City, 1.5 inches between now and early on Monday afternoon. But again, we can probably handle that. It's not too heavy of rain. And Roatan, about 1/2 inch of rain. San Pedro Sula, about 1 inch of rain. But again, when you get east of there, this is where we start to have some of that heavier rainfall potential right along the eastern shoreline. 4, 5, maybe even 6+ inches of rain right on the coast. So we would have to watch out for some potential coastal flooding. And because we're going to be kicking up this disturbance, we're going to kick up the sea conditions here in the Southwest Caribbean as well. And then again, you get back down towards Costa Rica, and it's right along the shoreline. But that bullseye is offshore from this heavier rain. So obviously, a lot of moisture gathering there. For the ABC Islands, again, it's a little bit spottier in nature, 1 inch or 2 of rain possible. The maximum, as I mentioned, into the Windward Islands, Trinidad, Barbados, Grenada, Tobago. So Grenada, about 3 inches of rain, Tobago 2, a little bit lower on the model in Trinidad. But again, we kind of average this out, showing you 1 to 2+ inches of rain in that area. As I mentioned, Barbados, decent amount to get more than 1 inch of rain. St. Vincent, about 1 inch. And anywhere north of Martinique, it's going to be a lot more spotty to actually get a downpour of significance. Sure, there'll be some rain in the forecast, but not a lot. And then back to the Dominican Republic, again, Santo Domingo area and higher terrain. Again, very mountainous island, so the opportunity for some decent rain and some potential for some quick flash flooding if you can get 2 inches of rain in a short order there in some of those higher terrain areas. For the Bahamas, enjoy it, guys. You're going to have a lot of wind coming up later next week, and we're going to get back into that. So let's look again at this disturbance. All right. Not much has changed in the thinking from the models over the last 24 hours. And I got to tell you something. That's good in the sense of that we can start putting even more credo and confidence into what the models are developing. First of all, the Hurricane Center still has a 30% chance of development and very slow development because this area looks to just basically meander in the Southwest Caribbean for days and days to come. Certainly through the weekend and early next week, then beginning to pick up some steam, maybe Wednesday, Thursday, and eventually moving north and east. But again, this is a 7-day area of development, and there's not much in that as far as distance goes. I mean, just to kind of give you an example here, if I switch over to the spatial tool, when I show you, from the southwest part of this area of potential development to the north and to the east, it's less than 800 miles of movement over 7 days. So this is just going to be drifting to the north and to the east here. But again, all the models are in agreement that this is the area that it would develop And they're all in still very good agreement that it is going to develop. Again, the Hurricane Center, 30% chance, but more than likely that number is going to go up as we go through time. So let's go back over to the model here. I'm going to switch over back to our reflectivity. We'll extend it out over the next week plus, and then I'll throw this into motion. Now, again, this is the GFS model. The GFS model continues to be consistent in its timing and its track and its intensity. It's still the strongest model compared to the European, but the solution continues to be very stable, meaning that as I look at the different model runs, it's not flipping back and forth. Sure, the GFS could still ultimately be out to lunch and none of this ever happened, but we have to put a little bit of credence into the fact that it continues to pump out the same solution. And now we're getting, it's not 10, 14 days out. Now we're getting 5-7 day time frame here, okay? And again, the European model develops an area of low pressure in this same area as well. It's not as intense, but again, it's the same spot. So we'll take a look at it and take it step by step. Again, moisture just gathering through the weekend. As we get to early next week, it gets offshore. Sea surface temperatures are well into the mid 80s. They're going to be able to support tropical development even this time of the year. And again, that general track still to the north and to the east. Now, well before, and this is the 15th here, so this is Wednesday, well before we get any real center to develop on all of the models, there's going to be a lot of rain. As I mentioned, we'll have to watch the coastline of Honduras and Nicaragua. I think some showers for Central America, but generally this is moving to the north. So my bigger concerns for much higher rainfall totals would be the Cayman Islands, but then especially Jamaica and portions of Hispaniola, eastern Cuba, and then eventually into the Turks and Caicos and the southeast Bahamas, where ahead of this, if you notice just how elongated this system is going to be, there is a very strong cold front mid-latitude cyclone coming through the United States at the same time. And I'll show you how that wind impact is going to influence the potential track of this disturbance. But notice how those merge. There could be some significant rain hundreds to thousands of miles north and east of this as this kind of hybrid system merges. And maybe this doesn't stay tropical for very long, or the core of this gets kind of ripped apart and we just have a very sheared storm moving through. I mean, there's all different scenarios considering it's November and we are going to have some really strong southwest winds just to the north where this is going to be tracking. But this does look to be very tropical in nature through at least the Caribbean. And you can see that again. So for our friends in Jamaica, Kingston, Negril, Montego Bay, the entire island, expect your rain chances to really begin to ramp up Wednesday into Thursday and Friday, and then we'll just have to keep an eye on where this is headed. Again, I don't want to focus on one specific location, but based on the GFS model, several islands and several nations would be impacted by this late next week. Looking at the wind profile, so again, this was a very strong storm yesterday on the GFS model. What does it look like right now? Let's switch over to the wind gust product and I'll put that into motion for you. Again, we're going to be picking up some decent breeze through the entire Caribbean as we kick through the rest of the weekend. But again, early next week, we'll start to see this begin to wrap up. The European model shows the exact same area of development and a general exact same track. Again, we still don't have an invest, so we don't have some of those tropical models running on this. We don't have our spaghetti plots yet. I hope soon we'll begin to get that data. More data points with this is always great, just gives us more things to analyze and look at. But again, on the GFS model here, I'll stop it. This is going to be Tuesday early morning. We'll finally start to see this begin to wrap up Wednesday and into Thursday. So even the GFS model is about a day slower than what it was yesterday. That is more in alignment with the European model. So again, that's why I said we're going to be dealing with this disturbance for 4 or 5 days before there's any real chance of it beginning to wrap up into a depression or a tropical storm. Now, one thing that I think we can all agree on, and I do as well, is that the GFS model is a little bit weaker with this. Yes, it takes it over Hispaniola, which is going to really undercut it with that higher terrain, but it's not as strong as it was yesterday moving through Jamaica. But still, this would easily support a tropical storm. Vince would be the next name on the list if we get a named storm. And again, you can see that the impacts for Jamaica and especially Haiti and the Dominican Republic, eastern Cuba, and eventually into the Turks and Caicos. And that wind field, watch as I expand this out. Look at this wind field. This is, again, the merging of that mid-latitude cyclone with this disturbance, depression, tropical storm, and this winds could be howling up and down. And by the way, when I back this up just a little bit, that will begin to move into the Bahamas here. Not as strong, but our friends in the Bahamas are going to see some very windy conditions beginning on Wednesday and Thursday as well. Bermuda could have some extremely strong gale force winds out of this if the GFS model holds true. So again, that's kind of a look at the profile of the winds. Why is it moving this way? Let's switch over. I'm going to go single frame mode on this one and take a look at those 500 millibar winds. Okay, so what we're going to end up seeing here, let me expand this view out because it's just nice and easy to see. So we're going to have a really strong storm coming into the central and the southern United States and eventually off of the East Coast. So if we step out another 3 days in time, you'll start to see, first of all, these really strong winds pick up across the Northeast, but going out another few days here into the 17th, now we'll really start to see these winds sink off towards the south. And this would be the same time frame that we would try and get this to develop. So again, as I mentioned, really strong winds through the Gulf of Mexico, all right? And that is going to pull a lot of shear in there, but these winds are going to also be howling out of the south and to the west. So you can kind of see these winds doing this, then they're going to curve up like that. And these winds, and I'll take you out a couple more days, are going to make their way all the way into the southern sides of the Gulf of Mexico. So based on that, we basically have to believe that the pulling of this storm to the east is going to be likely. Again, I'm having all kinds of trouble with this telestrator. I'm trying here. Clear it. And then it's all these little things I got to do. Now I should be finished. Okay, so now I can zoom back out. But you get the idea that with these strong winds coming in all the way down through the Bahamas, through the Strait of Florida, the southwest side of the Gulf of Mexico, there's really no way for this storm to try and move north and west. It almost has to get pulled to the north and to the east. So I do buy that scenario, and the European model picks up on that as well. So again, this is a lot of shear. It could help to actually begin to rip apart the storm a little bit as it gets north of Hispaniola, or at least provide some kind of merged tropical hybrid system here. When I throw this into the 20th, it's probably a little bit too far. Let's go back just a little bit here. Let's see, let's go back to the 18th. How about there? I think that's a good one. All right, you can really see those winds and then what happens with this system and kind of a merging of the two. And again, these are mid-level winds, but it gets you a good idea that we're not going to get maybe a very strong vertically stacked storm, but it could be a wind maker, it could be a big rain maker as well. So on the European model, this is Thursday night, okay? Very much in agreement with the GFS. More members of the European model continue to show at least a tropical depression developing in the Southwest Caribbean. As a matter of fact, the chance of a tropical depression from the European model is 100%. And you notice where this is moving, north and east. Now you'll notice that there are some plots of low pressure off the Florida East Coast. Again, that is a non-tropical low, but when you have that low and this low, you're gonna have a lot of wind in between. And that's why we could have some extremely crazy winds as another big part of that story. So that's what I've been looking at here. And the chance of development for a tropical storm from the European model is right around 30%. So same track, right? Same development area, same timing, just weaker. It still could bring us a tropical storm. And that's one thing I'll continue to watch, is how strong the European model makes this. But again, we're going to have this system sticking around for a while. It's going to take a few days to develop. So if you live anywhere in this area, we'll keep you updated on that. Obviously, again, we're going to have some good showers through portions of the Dominican Republic, portions of the southern Windward Islands, and at least some sides of coastal Central America and up towards the Yucatan, spotty in nature. Otherwise, some areas will remain relatively dry, and it's going to be a good weekend ahead for you. Okay, friends, where can you find us on social media? It's not just here. Get off the screen and show you again. You kind of want some snippets, if you will, of our forecasts. Find us on the go and some of our other social media platforms, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. You can always email us at mymeteomundo@gmail.com. That's a great way to send us any pictures or any videos. But you can also send us pictures and videos on our Instagram account as well. Again, if you have any specific questions about the forecast, drop them in the comments below. I'd be happy to answer them for you. But hopefully this forecast video gave you that information that you need. Thank you again for liking this video. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. If you do want the latest information on the forecast across the Caribbean and Bahamas, hit that subscribe button now. Have a great weekend, friends. I'll keep you updated through the weekend and into the week. Promise you that. We'll see you soon, right here at Meteo Mundo.